So obviously I'm not Hamish, but I wanted to jump up here. First thing, my task is here to do two things about launching PestPoint. Task one is to remind you all that in the CRC we're focused on about delivering for impact, and hopefully you've seen that through so many different things. And then one of the pathways for getting impact is through a commercial pathway, and that's why we've had a PBIP company under the PBCRC and a PBIP board advising us and directing us. So we want to go with PestPoint through a commercial pathway. My second task is to introduce Gary Kong. Most of you would know Gary Kong if you've been to one of these before, but the point is here that Gary has been the brains and the driver behind this technology for many years, including extensive trialling in Australia and Southeast Asia, supported by both the CRC and ACR. PestPoint under Gary's leadership has won a number of awards and generated lots of interest. But it's now time to deliver it commercially. And that's why we have Hamish, but Gary Kong is now going to give you a bit more background and history of PestPoint. Gary.
Thanks, Michael. Yeah, well, most of you have probably heard of PestPoint over the years since we started to develop the idea and started to basically test the software program to see how it would work in our agricultural settings. For those of you who don't know, it's a software program that's based on social networking principles. And by that I mean it allows people to use the software to create their own groups and to share information about pests and diseases within those groups. Just like any social networking platform, it allows people to use the collective wisdom of the group basically to come up with an identification or to come up with some decision as to how to control a pest or what to do next. So in a sense, I guess it's a preliminary identification tool, but more than that, it's a decision support tool which allows people to use the tool to make decisions about what they need to do with controlling pests in their crops. I guess the reason that we created this in the first place was because we could see that the expertise in this country was dwindling, as it is globally, and we all know that, and that issue's been raised a number of times already during this conference. And I guess the second thing is something that's always really been with us, and that is that pests are always a long way from where the experts are who can identify them. Most of the people who find pests are at our borders or in remote areas, yet most of our scientists are located in major regional centres or capital cities. And when you go overseas to other countries, you find that the situation's even worse. So working in places like Southeast Asia, you'll find that all of the experts in a country reside in one capital city, and so there's no expertise in the countryside for where rural activities are occurring and where pests are being found. So there was a good reason for creating this thing, I think, in the first place, and it kind of occurred at the same time as we all started using mobile phones a little bit more, and everybody seemed to have a Facebook account. So we were moving towards social networking as part of our social psyche, and we also had the hardware tools, the smartphones, that were becoming much more prevalent. So it seemed like a no-brainer to put these two things together to see if we could solve some of these problems. So as Michael suggested, for the last few years we've been beta testing the software, and it's been a relatively new thing and a very steep learning curve for us to see how the agricultural community, as opposed to a social community, would use this tool. And it's been, as I said, a learning curve, probably quite different to the way we thought it would turn out. And as a result of that, it's forced us to go back to the drawing board and to redesign the program. Because I guess in the interim period between starting with the software and then getting to where we are now, social networking has evolved quite a lot. Not just in the way that the software is programmed, but also in the way people use it. So we've gone back to the drawing board, we've created a new version. We are now at the point of commercialising the new version. We have been using it, as Michael said, in Southeast Asia for a number of years. And 2 weeks ago, the Thai government approached us to basically sign up for a licence to use PestPoint as their national surveillance tool. So we're getting to the point where we're getting a lot of interest internationally. What we'd like is to get a lot more interest nationally for this tool. And so by launching the tool commercially, we're hoping that we are going to have a software program that can have a life into the future. Because as we all know, a lot of the software that we develop dies at the end of the project. that we used to establish the software in the first place. So we're hoping that by commercialising this software that we'll have a life into the future, and we hope that it will serve the community and the community will get behind it and make the software what they want it to be. So I'll hand over to Hamish and he will tell you a little bit more about it.
So PestPoint is now called Checkpoint, and that's my daughter Mabel, learning where food comes from. And I put a photo of her there because the food security and the future, that's probably what drives a lot of us here. We pitch ourselves as the world's biosecurity platform, and those two words, they're world. I mean, biosecurity is a global problem. It's an Australian problem, it's regional, it's global. And in being a platform, the technologies that we're building are really just the tip of the iceberg. So what you see when you use an app or a website, you're interfacing with the tip, and what goes on underneath is just as important as the usability that you develop when you're solving that problem. So we've been doing this for a long time now. We've been working with Gary for about 10 years now. And we've developed all these products. We've worked together supporting thousands of users, and there's a huge investment in these products, and the learning across these platforms is cumulative. Paddle here, that predates the iPad, and Bowerbird is a tool that feeds its data into the Atlas of Living Australia. So we've taken all those learnings, we developed PestPoint, which had apps, and really what we're focused on now is taking the learnings of building project-based products and giving them some longevity. So RDCs, governments, they get engaged in a process of building software, but they're not software companies. So what happens here is projects often end up on the software development graveyard. We have lots of silos of information, lots of people building the same thing again and again. And quite frankly, that money can be better spent. We have code decay. People leave organisations after they've spent a lot of time building tools, or the tools are outsourced, and the understanding of how they work, that dwindles away over time as well. The problem there becomes a problem of trust. People lose trust in the tools that they're using because they spend all this time putting all their data and rolling out these tools through their organisations, only to find out that these tools end up with a very short life. So what we learned building these tools was that the future is a commercial future. So PBCRC identified an opportunity in Checkpoint, and so have VCs and ag tech accelerators, and they've invested in us to build this into a business. So we've got a future, we've got a long-term future. So the idea that we build standards-based APIs and we focus on quality technology is that we want to reduce friction. We want people to be comfortable using our technologies in the way they use Facebook, in the way they use WhatsApp, in the way that they use all these things have taught people how to engage with technology. So we're capitalising on those things, and we want to increase the adoption in organisations. We want to make it easy for people to say, well, you know what, I'm not going to build another silo, but I need something. There are platforms out there. We can build the tips for that iceberg, but ultimately we all benefit when we all start to use standardised software. So what is the problem here that we're solving? Well, as Gary said, threats are distributed and expertise is centralised or remote. Data gets collected, often in silos, and the stakes are high. The problems are very, very expensive to fix. So what we do about that is we bring consumer tech to the biosecurity space. We bring these really cool technologies into science. And the way that we've gone about that over the last 5 years working with PBCRC and in the PestPoint project is to understand and model the way that humans actually behave and how people solve these problems in the real world. And what we found that they do is they form groups, they share information, they ask questions, and on that basis they learn. And our challenge then is to present that data back to an organisation or to people that use our tools and allow them to make decisions confidently. The problem is, if you're not using a silo, you might be using one of these tools. You might be emailing, you could have a group in a WhatsApp, using Line. Hopefully you're not posting stuff on Twitter. That probably does happen. You're probably finding people in LinkedIn to connect with or in your networks. And this funny little icon over here, this is the silo. This is where I've got budget in my IT department, and I'm going to build a really cool Access database, and we're going to use that until something else better comes along. So this is the solution. And what we have here is, this is Checkpoint. We've got a farmer in Laos. He's got a problem in his crop. He's a part of a group, and he's submitted an inquiry to get some help. I can't read this. I don't know if anyone can hear. But what he's doing is he engaged an expert, and they're having a chat about it. So let's just take a look at that. So they say when you're presenting software live, you're supposed to make a sacrifice to the demo gods. I haven't done that today, so we'll see how that goes. Okay. All right, so here we've got the dashboard. So it's a work tool. It's taking social networking technologies, but we're not at work to socialise most of the time. We're there to get stuff done. So this is a task-oriented interface to say, you know what, you've got a few things in your inbox and to get these done. We've got a stream of inquiries. We can do surveys. We need to know the presence or absence of something that we're looking for. We've got a real-time live view of what's occurring. We can see what's happening in our groups. And we worked out over time that it really wasn't necessarily important for people to actually identify what pests they had. A lot of the time we found that they weren't actually willing to make an identification. But what they need to do is they needed to action something. We've got a list of people in our organisation. We've got some experts there. So everything that happens in this group is secure. Can only be seen in the group. And now we've got a list of people in the system and experts that we can engage with. And the great thing about this, it works on a mobile. So what we're doing now, so we're commercialising. That means that we're open for business. We're looking for growth. We're looking for customers, partnerships. We're really excited by a lot of the work that people are doing in the biosecurity community. This is not the only solution, it's a part of the solution, but it's a long-lasting solution. We've imported the entire paddle dataset, all 80,000 specimens, 47,000 images, 7,500 pests. We have image libraries now. We're working with IoT device developers because we see a future in bringing data in from all sorts of sources, non-human and machine. We're investigating machine learning opportunities as we see the human expertise dwindling. So there's lots of exciting things going on, and we're looking to collaborate with all sorts of thought leaders to bring those tools to market. So if you're interested, you'd like to do a trial, you'd like to get involved, or you want to come and work together, get in touch.